Greetings, fellow humans! I am Bruno G, and I make cool 3D printable models for cosplay. Today I want to share with you my current project, Ebony and Ivory, that Dante uses in Devil May Cry games. I wanted more realism with this model, so I decided to add blowback mechanism. It was a lot of effort, a lot of test printing, like a whole bunch of test prints here. But the result was absolutely worth it. Let me show you. The idea is pretty simple. The top part, the slide, goes back, and it's connected with the trigger via the mechanism inside the handle. So when I press the trigger, the slide goes back, and when I release it, it goes in the original position. I'm making this video to show the assembly process, the order in which this model comes together. There are a lot of parts, and they should fit nicely with each other, not too loose, not too snug. So I think I should mention a couple of important things so everything prints nicely. First, your printer calibration, flow rate and pressure advance. Those things should be dialed in. They're essential for good dimensional accuracy. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I think Orca Slicer documentation is a good resource to learn. Check the links in the description. Also, your extrusion width. If you're printing with 0.4 mm nozzle, your extrusion width for all walls shouldn't exceed 0.42. Most important parts of this model have a lot of complex geometry, and it's quite a challenge to print them with smooth surfaces. And it's important because some parts should not have a lot of friction between each other. The slide and the grip were printed at an angle of 45 degrees to the build plate, using a bunch of supports. And here I encountered my first obstacle: warping. In my head, a long object printed at 45 degrees doesn't have that big of a cross section to cause excessive warping. And this is correct. So I started looking where was the problem. After some investigation, I realized that it was supports causing the problem. My first test print was made on organic tree supports, and the slide part came out warped like a banana. Of course I'm exaggerating, but the warping was significant enough to prevent the mechanism from working smoothly. I want to mention that I'm printing everything in PLA, which is considered to be less prone to warping among other materials. In the end, the solution that worked for me was to use snug supports, but use them sparingly, not creating long stretches of material along XY plane. Basically, it looks kind of like support pillars with 2 or 3 mm gaps between them. That pretty much solved my problem with dimensional accuracy and warping. Even if you print everything perfectly, there are still a lot of variables that affect how everything fits together. So don't be shy to use sandpaper. Also, a very good idea is just to rub things against each other. It's especially a good idea for the slide and the rails inside. So just make the freshly printed parts cooperate. As you may have noticed, that model doesn't have anything on the slide, and Ebony and Ivory should have engravings saying Ebony and Ivory. In the download, you will find both versions, with and without those engravings. I'm using this version of the model because I plan to use laser to make those engravings at the later stages of the process. Final word before I start showing the assembly. This print here that I'm using as the example, this is not the final version. Even while I was filming all of this, I came up with some new ideas, some adjustments, some tweaks, things that will make assembly a little bit easier for you and maybe a little bit straightforward. And in some places, it makes the mechanism work better. So if you find yourself confused about the model or the assembly, or maybe in the future I will change some things compared to this video, Feel free to reach me on my Discord server, link in the description. If you can find metal screws of this type, use them. It will look better for the handle and the side. I had to print one. The screw goes into plastic, so don't over tighten it. Fix the trigger in place lightly. Then unscrew for half a turn. It will be adjusted later. Again, do not over tighten. Please ignore this screw hole. It ended up being unnecessary, so it was removed from the model. We only use this one. Squeeze the lever arm and push it until it clicks. Cut the rubber band. You can adjust its length for tighter or lighter trigger. Make sure to orient the pins correctly. One side has a beveled edge. Stretch the rubber to place it in the slot. There is no need in knots or anything else. Please take note how the pin inserts in the slide. Beveled edge goes down. Stretch the rubber ends and push into place. Placing the second pin can be a bit tricky. Now the trigger screw can be adjusted. There is a sweet spot where it works best. I was trying to secure the back parts with this screw, but they hold pretty good without it too. The smaller bits are supposed to be glued in. I also added some marks to the 3D model to identify portrait part position better. Even though I had some issues with this project, it was a healthy challenge and it was fun. If you want to print your own Ebony and Ivory, files are available on my website and on Cults 3D. For me, there is still a lot of work to be done, but I will definitely make a follow-up video showing and talking about the final result. I really hope to see you there.